Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation. Trump, COVID-19, and gold and silver. Let's explore. That's right, both metals, in fact, most all precious metals are down today based off of news that we heard early this morning. And I kind of thought it would be the opposite. The markets were a bit rocked, but nonetheless, the president and the first lady have both tested positive for the coronavirus. Our thoughts and prayers are with them and everyone in the White House as they deal with this. But really, our thoughts and prayers are with everyone who comes down with this and or has. And my condolences to anyone who has lost a family member or a friend to this horrible pandemic that is out there. But gold has ended lower as markets assess the Trump coronavirus news. So it is still up for the week. Silver has gained 4% for the week, and gold is up more than 2% here in this article from MarketWatch. Before we get into this too deeply, just want to encourage you guys to press that like button, deeply press it. You know what I mean? Into the maelstroms of your monitor or device. That would be most helpful for sure. Helps get the word out there. And also want to remind you of more breaking news that broke yesterday, and that is the gold and silver eagles. The new designs for 2021 have been posted on the U.S. Mint's website, and I did a video covering that news. So check it out. I will link to it at the end screen of this video. But if you've missed it, it's breaking news. I believe I was the first one in the community, or even of any of news source out there, to bring it to the public. But this is a story that I've been tracking for quite some time. As the most popular bullion coins in the world. And me being a fan of coin design in the process is something that I've wanted to do and keep up with, so it was an honor to share that with you, but check that video out when you get a chance. So here from MarketWatch, gold futures ended lower Friday, and even though President Donald Trump and his wife announced they had contracted COVID-19 and would be quarantining in the White House for days, the unexpected news comes as the race for the U.S. presidency between Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden is heating up. Some strategists speculate that the news forces investors to come to terms with the front-runner status of Democratic challenger Biden, who is already leading in most national polls against Trump. Now, we know how polls are, and we know how that worked out in 2016, but I digress. Gold picked up a bit overnight on the Trump diagnosis news, but turned back downward as it has become clear that the news has not sparked a panic rush out of equities into defensive havens like gold. Colin Ashiznetsky, chief market strategist at SIA Wealth Management, told MarketWatch. Equity markets were down Friday, but the Dow Jones Industrial Index was down -0.48, trading off the session's worst levels. On Friday, December gold fell $8.70, or nearly 0.5%, to settle at $1,907.60 an ounce on COMEX after gaining 1.1% on Thursday to finish at around a 2-week peak. Silver for December was down about 1.5 points, lost 23 cents, or almost a point, to $24.02 an ounce. It's actually down below that now. For the week, gold saw a weekly gain of 2.2%, while silver marked weekly rise of nearly 4.1% based on the most active contracts from FactSet data. Prices for both precious metals had posted declines last month. The lack of fresh stimulus from the Federal Reserve and political gridlock precluding fiscal aid have been dominant factors behind the gold retracement and associated dollar strength, said Ryan Gianotto, director of research for Granite Shares, which offers the Granite Shares Gold Trust. Still, the halt on additional stimulus is not altogether bearish for gold, as stock price require monetary and fiscal support to far greater extent than gold, he told MarketWatch. Waning economic optimism and a growing second wave of mass layoffs from companies like Disney, American Airlines, and others firmly underscore this point and the need for gold as a diversifying asset. I agree. I tell you what, we're getting some good news in some areas of the economy, but things like Disney and American Airlines, and of course, the coronavirus is still with us, and it's going to probably be a while, folks, before any vaccine makes it to most of the United States, and I know people are nervous about it, myself included. Anyway, I know I'm not going to be taking it for quite some time, if at all. The U.S. presidential election, meanwhile, increases uncertainty in Trump's COVID-19 diagnosis, emphasizes the realities of risk before us, he said, adding that gold may be poised for future gains, or for further gains. The rise in prices for the precious metals on the week came as the U.S. dollar had receded somewhat after last week's rally, providing more room for dollar-based assets to rise. So the dollar index has declined 0.9% so far this week, but was trading at around 0.1% higher on Friday dealings, as gauged by the index, which measures the buck's strength against a half dozen currencies. A weaker dollar can make asset priced in the monetary unit relative more expensive to overseas buyers. Gold prices fell early Friday as the immediate wake of U.S. unemployment data revealed 661,000 new jobs in September, but hiring was the smallest since businesses reopened from lockdowns imposed to combat the pandemic. The precious metal then briefly paired some losses shortly after data showed U.S. factory orders rose 0.7% in August, up from the fourth straight month, but the increase is below the 0.9% rise expected by economists surveyed by MarketWatch. Employment data underwhelmingly and below consensus didn't have much impact on gold, right? Executive Vice President of Gold Mining Inc. told MarketWatch. The market is looking for signs of progress between Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi on another fiscal stimulus bill, he said. It's anyone's guess if there really is a deal to be struck. They're far apart in some measures. I know that Nancy Pelosi had mentioned in an interview that they were far apart on local and state government relief, as well as some other measures, but they were close on other areas. The U.S. dollar will provide direction for gold into next week, and an agreement on fiscal stimulus would weaken the greenback. And that just goes to show you, because it's more money being printed. So if this thing goes through, you're going to see gold and silver probably go up. And if it doesn't go through, well, we might see them kind of stay where they're at. And now there's another article here on silver and copper, and it gives some hints for the global economic outlook to come. Industrial metals posted gains in the third quarter, with silver up sharply and copper touching its highest prices in over 2 years, suggesting that the worst of the coronavirus hit to the economy may be over. The third quarter economic backdrop was very supportive of the overall commodity complex, including industrial metals, says John Ferruso, Senior Asset Manager for RJO Futures. The reflection trade, assisted by the reopening of the economy and record Federal Reserve and government stimulus, helped the metals complex gain plenty of fervor following the second quarter of COVID-19 related shutdown and economic collapse. Silver futures posted a 26% climb for the third quarter, and copper futures finished 11% higher. Optimism around the reopening of the global economy and a continued rally in risk on assets improved global economic data, and the hopes of additional stimulus helped propel the upward movement in industrial metals, said Ed Igalinsky, managing director, head of alternatives at Direxion. The recent moves in the metals certainly support a narrative that the worst of the economic slowdown exacerbated by the COVID-19 might be behind us. At the same time, however, as news of President Trump's COVID-19 diagnosis on the 2nd of October also adds to the narrative of the ongoing global susceptibility to the virus. There has already been a reemergence of cases in parts of the world that can lead to a global slowdown and a risk-off sentiment adversely impacting industrial metals, So there's a lot of uncertainty still out there. I think that's why you're seeing the where things are. But if there's uncertainty, that could cause silver to go up. And if there's an increased demand for silver as an industrial metal, that could cause silver to go up. Silver's quarterly performance was impressive, especially when compared to a more modest 5.3 rise in gold futures for the same period. Silver benefited from both the industrial and investment side of its demand equation during the quarter, says Maria Smirnova, senior portfolio manager at Sprott Asset Management. Demand for the metal has been rebounding along with the world economy, and its appeal as an investment has also climbed, reacting just like gold to declining real interest rates as the U.S. dollar index. And it goes on to talk about copper, but essentially that is encouraging for those of you and us who hold silver. This metal is quite intriguing for sure, and it has been on quite a wild ride. So let's take a look at where the prices essentially are getting ready to close here as we go through the markets here. Gold is barely holding on to $1,900. Silver is below $24 now, and look at that. Amazingly, the metals are performing about the same in their downward trajectory, but typically silver performs a more wide-ranging. In other words, essentially, when the price of gold goes down, the price of silver goes down even more. When the price of gold goes up, the price of silver goes up even more. It outperforms and underperforms in these wild gesticulations of movements of prices. But this metal, I believe, could stabilize in its movement upwards if what we just read is true, and there's an increased demand for silver as an industrial metal. The gold to silver ratio is hanging around 80 to 1, 80 ounces of silver for 1 ounce of gold. How will that play itself out in the coming months and weeks as the economy improves or doesn't improve? I believe that the economy doesn't improve, we will continue to see these volatile movements in gold and silver. But as the economy does improve and there's an increased demand, if there is an increased demand for silver in the industrial sector and the biomedical fields, we could see that ratio narrow indeed. Very interesting indeed. Silver is a wonder metal. It is probably the most versatile. It is definitely the most versatile of the precious metals out there for sure. I would say probably it's arguably as versatile as the base metals such as iron or steel or and copper and the like. Very interesting indeed. So there you have it. Fascinating. And the world of precious metals for this news day on the 2nd of October here. And we again wish for a speedy recovery for anyone who has contracted coronavirus. And of course, we want stability, and we want the president to certainly get better. And it does make you wonder what the markets will be like if he were to show more severe symptoms. So far, the symptoms are minor for he and the First Lady. We hope they continue to be minor and he can continue to campaign and to do the duties of the office. And we pray that Joe Biden and Jill Biden and all involved in the Biden campaign don't contract the disease. So far, they've tested negative, and we pray that it stays that way. But we pray for all involved. So there you have it. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch this video, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.